Happy good morning, gents, to have you on our call today. Yeah, we all have been through the crisis. We all have spent a lot of time on thinking on how we could help the carriers to move out of this crisis. So, Marco, tell me, in your field of passenger services or PSSs, what would be the easy gains to move forward from a legacy to a digital new normal for passenger airlines?
Christian, it's 8:30 in the morning, and you come with challenging questions like this. First of all, happy good morning to you guys.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You know our industry never sleeps, so don't tell me it's 8 o'clock in the morning.
No, it's 8:30 to be precise.
8:30.
No, but it's always inspiring to have you guys in the morning. I think the easiest gain is to change mindset, and maybe that's a bit of a provocative statement, but if you don't change your
management is the hardest, but okay.
No, but I think the implementing the change is the hardest, but changing your mindset is actually the catalyst to everything. There's so many things that an airline can look at now in this crisis, because never has it been easier to implement technology in a downtime, because the disruption to your operation is absolutely minimal. And people that have not been laid off or furloughed have a lot more time on their hands in certain areas. There's some areas that are totally underwater at the moment, but there's many areas like the contact centers, they're of course totally underwater, but there's other areas like in IT, for example, that are not as busy as they normally are. And then contact centers are, for example, an area where you see a lot of problems during a time of crisis like this. And addressing these problems and finding the root cause, root cause of these problems, and trying to address them with radical approaches is something that airlines should be investigating. But first and foremost, I think it's really about the mindset. And in my experience, there's airlines that are really open, that really see the and it's been much quoted of late, the crisis is an opportunity. So there's some airlines that see the crisis as an opportunity, and they're really forward looking, and what can we do now? And then there's other airlines, rightly or wrongly, who are just so underwater that they say now is the worst time to do anything, and we just need to preserve cash, we need to preserve our resources, we don't know what the future brings. Who is right, who is wrong, I don't know. I think, well, I do have an opinion, and that is you have to have a positive mindset, and you have to have a mindset that is accepting that change is inevitable. And then it's all about, do you want to seize this opportunity now, or you want to wait it out? I don't know. It's probably the same or similar symptoms that you see in the ops space, Daniel.
Oh yeah. So it's good to have you with me this morning. It's good to meet other positive thinking people and game changers in the industry. But yeah, it's true. In the airline operations world, it's really a very sad time, the biggest crisis ever. A lot of bad news, a lot of issues and limitations. And I hope that we are soon having better times. And I think what you rightly said, every crisis is an opportunity. And we see a lot of innovations now coming from all over the world in order to cope with the COVID-19 situation. And that's for me one sample that there is a lot of brain pool and innovation power in the industry. And unfortunately, it always needs an external factor to get to know this power and to bring it to the market. And my hope is that what you said, the new mindset, new spirit, maybe also fresher joining from universities and academies coming to the industry, bringing also the spirit of digitization, new technology, and also fresh blood, is helping the airline industry to get very much quicker to the new not normal, and hopefully to the traffic figures pre-COVID, because I think travel is important. It's bonding, it's bridging gaps amongst cultures. It's also important for the supply chain, for get to know each other, and also for business relationship. And we are still a global economy, and so I'm a strong believer that the travel will get back very quickly soon. And I think the cargo business, Christian, is probably at the moment already the early adopter from new technologies and innovations. Maybe you can tell us a little bit more from your sector.
Well, I wouldn't underline this. Cargo always has been very reluctant, actually, in implementing new technologies to do their business. And there it really comes to the point there was a need of mindset change or even generation change. When I worked for IATA and we started to do these digitization campaigns like e-arrival or e-freight, you felt a lot of reluctancy actually within the air cargo industry to drive these changes. And very old and I would say wise people told me that they don't see this happening in the next decade, for example. So I think actually also this crisis is an opportunity actually to drive this mindset of we did this the last 30 years that way with these processes. We didn't need any fancy technology. We didn't need any, let's say, innovation. Business was running, cargo was moving to A to B, and the requirement wasn't there. But nowadays, I think it's all about quality, it's all about efficiency, and it's all about transparency. And that's where actually technology comes into place. So I'm a bit sad that without COVID, actually, this wasn't seen in the industry or in the cargo industry. And now when I was following a lot of webinars the last few months, everybody was saying, yeah, now technology will be the game changer, etc. But there again, it underlines basically what Marco has to say, change of mindset. And I think it's a pity that it comes from such a crisis like COVID. The industry needs to be down first to drive such a technology change. I mean, what we are looking at, for example, transparency or for supply chains. If you go in the automotive industry, they manage their whole supply chain on the point. The delivery companies who are delivering the parts for the production, they get there on time. And I can't understand why in the past decade, actually, my industry or the cargo industry has been so reluctant. And what came out of the industry now, I mean, let's face it, yeah, cargo carriers, cargo-only carriers, they were earning the revenues of their lifetime because with the passenger aircrafts not flying, the capacity scissor wasn't there anymore. The demand was far higher than the offered capacity in the industry, and therefore, of course, the revenues grow. And that's why we saw a very funny thing that passenger aircrafts were transferred, basically seats were taken out, so they were transferred to passengers freighters actually to earn money. It's a pity that this is only, I would say, a drop on a hot stone with the money, but the airlines have really understood now that they need to grow efficiencies. And what we have seen is also a big layoff actually of a lot of people in the industry. Fleets have been reduced, and they have found out that with technology it's actually easy to replace people. And we have worked with a structure of a lot of people which actually was totally over engineered for the industry. So Marco, with change of mindset, what else basically from a consumer perspective could technology bring now to the carriers? What would improve the business for them?
I want to pick up, before I respond to that question, I want to pick up quickly on your comment that you said. It's actually sad that it takes a crisis like this for people to adopt change, and also what you Daniel said about the crisis bringing out innovation. I'm not sure 100% agree with that, because the innovation is always there. It's just that it is seen more prominently, or it gets more airtime in a crisis like this. And why the crisis also brings the opportunity for airlines to change. And at the beginning I said it's about changing mindset, but upon reflection, yes, it certainly is the mindset, first of all, to say the crisis is the opportunity. But an explanation why pre-COVID and maybe post-COVID we see similar patterns is, I think, is also to do with how this industry from the very early days has always been so interconnected. And from a commercial system standpoint, do you guys actually know when the foundations were laid for the technology that we have in place today?
20
Daniel,
years
what do you
ago?
guess? What do you guess?
20 years ago.
Daniel?
No, knowing that some of my potential prospects have IT systems from 1964 in place, I would say 60 years ago, 50
No,
years.
Marco asked when was the foundation laid for the for the innovation which could be driven now into the business.
All right, it's about the innovation. Sorry, not the innovation. When was the foundation laid for the technology of the commercial systems, IT systems that are in place today? And that is from drumroll 1920s. So
What?
this is 100 years old technology. Okay. And that is when in the US the teletypewriter technology was introduced, and it was basically
by Sparrow,
towers that were co-located with airfields, and the TTY messaging is still in place today. Now, and then gradually over time, American Airlines in the 40s, they came out with the first reservation system, which was then a central system. Then in the 60s, Sabre, semi-automated business research environment, what you guys may think, started or came out with the first distributed reservation system. So what American Airlines started in the 40s was a central system, but it was at least capturing in a central computer, if you will, the reservations. Then when Sabre started, they started to distribute that. Then in the 70s, in 1976, Travicom basically pushed out the first terminals to travel agencies where you could book multiple airlines. ATPCO started in the 60s as well, which was and still is a central fare filing entity. So a lot of technology is in place that is older than my grandmother, and when you couple that with a world that is so intrinsically connected, from interlining, from alliances, from the whole technology aspect, from the government regulations, from all the security aspects, it becomes very difficult to take out a core piece of your infrastructure during your regular operations and say, whoa, we've gone wrong all these decades. Wow, we now need to change that. And wow, we also need to ensure that this new platform is better, more agile, more digital. And it still allows us this interconnectivity that we had in the past. It's a non-trivial task. And where it comes down to the change of mindset, it's a non-trivial task in good days. It remains a non-trivial task in bad days and crises like this. But the crisis gives you the breathing space to do that with a lot less disruption to your operation. And it gives you the breathing space also to think through, do you really want to keep ties from the past to the extent that you have them today? Or do you want to go solo? And when you think about the LCCs, when they started, they were like, I don't care what the others are doing. I know what I want to do, because a lot of the stuff that the others are doing, I don't even understand why they're doing it in the first place. So I'll do it differently.
Can I
come back to your question, Christian? What should airlines consider? I think it's not about technology, really. It's about the mindset is the prerequisite. If you have the right mindset to challenge your own status quo, it's about who do you want to be going forward, and how do you actually reach your customers and deliver the customer service that your customers are expecting. And all companies, us included, we're in so many cases, we're so inward focused, as opposed to taking the outside or external perspective to look at what does a customer want. And I, as a customer, I don't care about TTY messaging, AVS, NAVS, was the fare filed through ATPCO, yes or no. I want to have a fare that matches my price expectations, and I want to buy a product that is relevant to me. That's the only thing that matters to me as a customer. And yet, as an airline, you often think about, oh, do I have full content with Travelport? Do I have the highest level of connectivity with Sabre? And how do I get there? What does it deliver me? No. What do my customers want?
But that's funny. It's quite easy. I mean, picking up what you just have to say. If I look, for example, at the way nowadays shopping is being done with these big e-commerce portals like Amazon, or how is this called in Asia, Alibaba, for example. You know, I think habits are changing, and our industry hasn't understood this yet. But why do I need interconnectivity or anything? Basically, I just need a web page, yeah, where it has all the information of the services I have to offer. The passenger, or even in cargo, it could be cargo booking, gets the information he wants. And basically, what does a passenger need to see? He wants to get from a point A to a point B in a certain time frame for a certain price. Actually, very easy, just free information. But from an airline perspective, of course, passenger name record has more to it, actually. And this needs to be handled. So I think that's where it's a bit differing. In cargo, it's the same. There are actually just two things which matter. How quick can the cargo be transported and at what price? And as we know, prices are always sensitive. But there was something else I wanted to pick up. I think it's very difficult to talk about innovation or technology when actually what we are facing is that our industry is decades behind other industries. And I wouldn't even say mindset or anything helps. It really, when I run an airline, I need to understand how can I lower my costs to produce, actually, and therefore I can generate revenues or even cross margins. And I mean, we all know that our industry has been very low in cross margin. I think 4.5% cross industry. This will drop now tremendously. But I think just it was. Well, how shall I ask this question differently? I mean, we all know how much you need to invest in a new cargo system or a new PSS, and it's far more or less, perhaps even only between 1 and 10% of buying one new aircraft. Why have the carriers, Daniel, have been so wild, let's say it, in a way, ordering new planes as soon as a new aircraft comes out? They overload their fleets with capacity, etc., even if the demand is not there, or they think the demand will come. And what we are facing now is that a lot of these aircrafts will be grounded, and basically assets which have been paid for are standing in the desert and nothing happens with it. So Daniel, why have the airlines been so reluctant in investing in IT infrastructure, but when it gets to new aircrafts, like I say, they took a lot of investments, a lot of debts, a lot of money which has to be earned because these aircrafts are expensive. Daniel, tell me, why do you think that carriers are so interested in new equipment, but they never look at their IT infrastructure, or haven't in the past?
Well, that's a very good question, and maybe it might look much easier to phase in a new aircraft and replace an older one than going through a business transformation process and replace a legacy IT system. Interestingly, Marco said his route technology is more than 100 years old. My route technology is even coming from 1890. Because Karol Adamicki, a Polish engineer, he was creating the forerunner of the gunshot.
Mine is older.
80, 90? Your was 1920. Come on.
I acknowledge your technology is even older.
Exactly. And I think until today, it was always the risk perceived as the criteria not to take on an opportunity. And now airlines need to take opportunities in order to cope the risk. So that's why this COVID-19 situation is so unique, and it will really create a lot of momentum for many industries, because all the naysayers, all the pessimists, all the people who rather see risk than chances, they have to have very good answers why they are not going in the right direction, why they are not taking the necessary actions. And yeah, unfortunately, Christian, to get back to your question, till today, airlines have actively decided to burn money because they leave inefficient IT systems, non-integrated IT systems in place. And we all know that if you have a digital camera and a navigation system and an old-fashioned cell phone and a portable game station, and you want to take a picture and you want to send it via email to somebody, the process is way slower than having a smartphone, which is highly integrated, where you can on the fly take a picture and send it to somebody to all over the world. And I think that's unfortunately the case. Many airlines are still operating with an edge speed instead of 5G. They are taking pictures in a very low resolution instead of 4K or higher. And they are not operating in an integrated environment. And that is slow decision making, erroneous decision making. At the end, it costs airlines a lot of money. This money could be used for further innovations, could be used to keep.
You're talking about revenue leakages coming from the old system. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, it's, you know, the industry is paying a lot of money for passenger compensations due to certain regulations. Just to mention the EU 261 regulation in Europe, where every passenger can get 250, 400 or 600 euro from the carrier responsible for the delay, depending from the length of the sector, which is a lot of money. So according to surveys, 1.5 billion euro are owed from the airlines in Europe alone to the passengers since 2017. It's a lot of money. If they have to pay out this money, they would, some of these airlines would go bankrupt pre-COVID, and still the airlines are not changing course and have not started to go through business transformation processes. Good news, before COVID, more than 20 airlines have decided to change course, to get rid of legacy system, to really harmonize and optimize decision making, standardize decision making, and that's why I'm sure we will hear good news in the upcoming weeks and months, because the industry, what you rightly said, is trailing behind, and it is also not knowing across the world which technology is available, which company is capable to support a business transformation process, even remotely. Because if you are in a lockdown situation, and it's also for me a kind of an innovation, it was never ever thinkable that you do a business transformation process, but you're not having a project meeting in person. Everybody would always believe you have to fly to the site, we have to meet in person. Now, with a physical distance and travel bans, you need to find a modus operandi and new implementation approaches to even support airlines who have invested into business transformation. And these innovations are now coming up. And I think we will hear this more and more. Marco, you are also personally affected from COVID-19. You cannot travel anymore, meeting customers and prospects. What is your personal summary today of the COVID-19 situation? What is a highlight you have experienced since COVID-19 has also friendly lockdown Germans in Germany?
I think my highlight is that I learned a lot. Learned in the sense of I learned a lot about me. I learned a lot about habits that die hard and habits that you thought will never change, changing rapidly. You were just talking about not being able to travel on site. Well, guess what? And you did that in the ops space. We're doing that in the reservation space. If you go back 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, I should say now, and would have asked somebody to implement a PSS or a new crew and ops system or a loyalty system, completely hands off without going on site, people would have given you a face palm. So, no way on this planet is this going to happen. Now it's like, now the problem that we're facing is like, how do we justify implementation charges when nobody's traveling? The good news is we make stuff a lot more affordable for our customers because we're not incurring cost. We can actually do all these things remotely. So that's an example where I'm surprised how fast habits have died. The one habit that hasn't died is we want to get out, we want to travel, we want to meet, we want to interact. And if the glass is half full, if you are upbeat, enthusiastic, smart, positive, creative, then you find ways to engage and then virtually travel. And it's amazing. It's amazing how that actually touches people's hearts. And one of the examples is one of our dear friends in Serbia, one of the guys from the very early hours of our virtual happy hours. I don't know, we started talking during these happy hours, and I think we went into lockdown before they went into lockdown. They briefly followed us, and they went into a even stricter lockdown. And he, quote and unquote, evacuated his family to the countryside because he didn't feel safe in the city, and there was a little more freedom and space in the countryside. But he also said how he missed traveling. And then one day during a virtual happy hour, he saw some plastic animals behind my desk, which I was about to sell on eBay. And his daughter was running through, while we were doing a video call, she was running through the picture, and she saw them. And then I thought, rather than selling them on eBay, maybe I just shipped them to Serbia. And I packed a parcel with those toys, added honey that my does, added some chocolates from the US, and some other stuff from around the world, and I sent him that as a package. And I said, look, if you can't travel, then at least in your mind and in your heart, travel to the places where the animals are from, where the chocolate comes from, travel to the part of Germany where my brother lives and then produces his honey. And actually, I was quite, he was touched and moved, but it also gave me a fantastic feeling. I realized that there's so many other ways rather than just going out for dinner with people that you can connect and that you can touch and make and leave an impact. So to summarize, some habits die quickly, and that is, or some things have changed very fast, and that was us responding to implementation challenges by just being forced to do things. And by the way, it's not just us during implementation, but it's also the whole work from home. I mean, if you think about all our colleagues in India, the lockdown in India is getting stricter by the day, and they're all working from home. And guess what? Our machinery still churns out innovation on a daily basis.
And we are seeing implementation successfully around the globe working remotely. I mean, it's proven that it can be done.
Yeah, but and the one thing to keep in mind is our colleagues in India, all our friends in Trivandrum and Cochin and Bangalore, they weren't used to that. They were commuting to the office every single day, and all of a sudden they're told, you start working from home. For us, it was kind of normal. The only thing that was taken away from us was the ability to travel. So I was surprised how quickly we adapted, and I found that fantastic. But and I was also I was also surprised how strong our desire is as human beings to keep that connect, which is the same reason why we guys are talking here. It's because we feel after a while we feel lonely. We need that connect. We need that emotional connect. We need that intellectual connect. We need to challenge us also, and it's the same with our customers. And you can easily connect and touch their hearts, because going back to what I think you sent around, Daniel, earlier, is 80% emotions and 20% facts.
But that is our industry. Our industry is about emotions, connecting people, bringing families together, taking people to new places to explore, etc. I think that's one of the key parts of our industry. Even with me in cargo, I mean, that's why I love cargo so much. Formula One wouldn't be possible without air cargo. Horse races, we wouldn't have all these. That's one thing I wanted to mention, actually. I was quite surprised, when the lockdown started, when all the passenger fleets were grounded, actually. I was still going to the supermarket and I was still getting fruits from Asia, vegetables from South America, and it was all there and fresh. And having worked in the air cargo industry, I know that in the Paris Service Center, for example, in Frankfurt, I mean, that's where the stuff goes through actually to the consumer in Germany. And I was really, really surprised that, and this is something perhaps also which generates emotions or a feeling or the need for our industry. We were in the lucky position actually that we never had to feel a downturn on what is available for us. But I think I learned or understood how important it is, or how important air cargo or anyway aircrafts or our business is actually to connect the world. And I think it's underestimated by a lot of people actually how much impact our industry has to their day-to-day lives. So that's why I'm saying this. I hope that this crisis not only changes the mindset, but also changes the awareness of the people, what we are actually bringing, what we are actually doing, etc. But that's why I'm saying. I mean, that's why I love our industry. It's all about emotions.
You could have won everyone's heart in Germany with air cargo had you guys started flying in not just mangoes but toilet paper in early March. then I think cargo would be the go-to place nowadays. This
but
way
what you said,
a little bit under the radar.
It's interesting. Perhaps a lot of toilet paper was actually flown to cope with the demand in certain countries. I mean, it's not only Germany.
We had not German. We had Spanish and Polish toilet paper in our houses, and interestingly enough, and that's one of the aftermaths of a crisis, which sort of we're still in the crisis, but it's an interesting maybe indicator how long it'll take also for our industry to go back to normal, is that the paper industry is only slowly starting to feel the pressure ease, in the sense of they had huge demand, and then of course they provided every household with the supply worth of 2 years of toilet paper, and then of course once people realized that they can't use that much toilet paper in their lifetime, they stopped buying. And that's actually, even for that industry that supposedly is gone or has the crisis behind it, it takes a long time to recover. So,
well, we've been talking now a lot about emotions and impacts and personal impacts, but I mean, we work in a business and we want to help our carriers to survive and to go into a prosperous and sustainable future. Daniel, from your experience, and I want to pick up on this remote working, how did it go actually implementing a new ops system at a Middle East carrier without having the opportunity to have people there locally to drive this? Did you we as an organization, did we feel any problems, or what is the experience about this? I mean, you successfully implemented a new ops system at a very big carrier.
Well, of course, it was a challenge, and it was not done in the first phase in the perfect manner, because if you do something for the very first time, and I think that's also the situation to cope with COVID in our country, there is not a playbook ready how to fight COVID. That's why it was for many countries a try and error approach. Some countries did it better than others because they could quicker learn from some measures. And that is also what we have done. So we have looked together with the customer which actions need to be done And it has, of course, created some more work on the customer side, because usually if you are on site as the supplier, you are taking many tasks, and now the tasks were shifted partially to the customer. But it's a little bit like you have a sickness and you need a healing, and you cannot travel to the doctor, and now you have to go to a remote doctor. Of course, your own work is also a little bit higher if you have to do not a small surgery, but the therapy is done by yourself. It's different than you go to the doctor and nurses and the doctors are making the treatment. And but at the end it was working. The important factor was to make it in time, because there was a milestone set for the cutover date, and it was not delayed, so the cutover was made. And I think, as I said earlier, it was taken as an opportunity to cope the risk of a cutover delay, and everybody was thinking very positively and proactively, okay, what is necessary to meet this date? Whereas maybe if you're on site and things are not working out, maybe you are more risk averse, and you are not taking all energy, because you have maybe the safety belt. Okay, we can do it maybe later, and so on. So I think here was really the driver to keep the date. And I have huge respect for all my colleagues in India and in other countries being in a lockdown situation, because it's a big mental pressure. I can just tell you from our friendly lockdown, how I call it, here in Germany in April. My wife was freaking out because I stayed all the time home, and she was not used to that, and because I was usually traveling. So I can totally understand how a situation of everybody who is in a lockdown situation, and then household, children care, and then still making the daily work, and then maybe not having the perfect infrastructure, because nobody ever knew that a lockdown could happen. So not everybody has an internet connection world class, and not everybody has an ergonomic chair and table and all that stuff. But people are still going the extra mile for their customers, keeping the operations running, helping to go through a business transformation, and that's really phenomenal. So there I'm really amazed what IBS software is doing, the passion from the people, and everything driven from innovation. So that's why that's one of my highlights. If you also ask me about a highlight in the last months, but one highlight was with you, Christian, because we were doing a virtual cooking event, and I was just having another cooking event where I was even cooking. I'm a good eater. I'm a very bad cook, but maybe you want to share a little bit more. What was your experience in this cooking event?
Actually, I was cheating. I'm so sorry. I was cheating.
No, the first time you were basically doing what we all have to do. If we don't have the things we need to be creative and innovative to have a certain outcome. I mean, what I think that has something to do with us, the people working in this industry. We are used to deal with problems, and we are very solution focused. The reason why I was actually now picking this up, doing a cooking event online, actually, first of all, I was really surprised how easy it is actually to show people around the globe what we are doing, and they can follow it. And okay, Marco, you were talking about the first cooking session. If I take the second cooking session, and we have people from all around the globe, and everybody was following it, and I can say that the outcome for everybody was the same. Why I'm picking this up and this cooking event, or implementing an ops system at a carrier remotely, actually, I think, and now I'm being very perhaps rude, the crisis changes mindset, or the crisis will drive all of this. I think it's only excuses. Everything else without the crisis would have been possible. And I still don't understand why we haven't seen these tremendous steps which are currently happening, and that's the feeling we get from the industry. And I talk to a lot of people in the cargo industry, and now they are really feeling the positiveness and the willingness to go a way forward. But I really have to say, this could have been taken 10 years ago, the same way. And we had other crises. I mean, we had the volcano, we had 9/11, etc. Why suddenly this crisis has such an impact? And that's where I'm a bit disappointed, actually, coming from an industry, and we were once innovation leaders. I mean, the first email really exchange used business-wise was used by the carriers. Yeah. And then suddenly it stopped. So I really think, why does a crisis has to come, etc. Actually, we should pull our noses and really rethink how we will continue in the future. There will be other crises, etc., and we need to be prepared. But we really need to think about that we continuously, I mean, we can take now a big step in technology, going from legacy to, we call it the digital new normal. Yeah. But this step could have been taken years ago. And when will be the next step taken? So, I mean, what do you guys, and I asked the question to both of you. I mean, if we going now out of the crisis, we will see a lot of cleanup in the market. Carriers will vanish. New carriers will go into place, and the existing carriers might survive. But what would be the next step actually for the industry to be taken after we have removed the legacy systems and to work successfully? So what is your prediction on that side?
I think in Europe we have 187 carriers, and knowing what has been happening, and knowing what has been happening in the USA, where you have 6 major carriers remaining, that would maybe mean 181 carriers might fade away. So huge consolidation in Europe, for example. Business models will be questioned. Also with the environmental requirements, much of the traffic might go to trains, but also urban travel will change. So I'm seeing a huge new innovation coming from flying taxis, which is an opportunity for pilots. So all the pilots currently maybe threaten to lose their job. They will be necessary for the first wave of flying taxis, because I doubt passengers will enter a flying taxi if there is not a pilot on board. We will see other modes of transport, Hyperloop, for example. So a lot of other transport means will be there, and they are all technology driven. Like an Uber is a technology driven kind of taxi service, where the user has not to take care of how is the payment working. He's just ordering and the driver is there. And maybe we are going to get an Uber in the air. And of course, now all the people will say regulations and the risk and all that stuff. But
there again, it's only excuses, actually.
Exactly. So I believe this will come. And yeah, I'm a big believer in change is the only constant in life. And I think we have currently a big game changer called COVID-19. A little thing has disrupted big societies, organizations, and systems. And we will have more little things. And it's maybe something companies should think about, to put little things also in their teams, a small rebel here and there to shake up established structures, established working models, which are necessary to evolve and to create innovations. Because if you're only doing what you have been doing since years, you are going the same path, but you're not take the sideways, and we will have a lot of sideways here and there. And by the way, Marco, have you ever met before COVID-19 one of your customers in a football shirt from his home team?
Yes. I'm sorry to say,
really?
but I do.
Really?
Yes. Maybe not in the office, but after office hours. I even have. Are we having any under 16 viewers? No. So I even received a gift once from a prospect at dinner time, I must say. So that was not during office hours, which is a pair of boxer shorts with a corgi dog on the back and on the front. And I thought that was pretty unique. So in that regard, I haven't seen many new things during the lockdown.
But for me, it was a special moment. It was for me a special moment when we had the virtual wine tasting to see the chief commercial officer of one of our customers wearing a Bayern Munich shirt and having on the other hand the winery wearing a. Why we have an echo now?
I don't know.
Somebody has changed something.
No.
Okay, so for me it was a strange moment to see Eintracht Frankfurt shirt, Bayern Munich shirt, and to see a chief commercial officer in his home team jersey with his family and having wines tasted from Germany and having people from Sweden, France, United Kingdom, Austria, Germany, and Iceland joining. So that was really for me another highlight of this COVID-19 situation.
It breaks, working from home breaks down the barriers between work life and personal life. Whether that's good or bad, it just drives a huge flexibility, which comes with responsibility, and which also comes with the challenge to adapt to that. And I would like to reiterate that once more. We were talking about working from home. I started working from home in 2002. And I remember for a period of 4 years between 2002 and now, I had an office job. It was stressful for me. It was difficult. But
I hated it, yeah.
And it was also difficult for me when I look back to the early days of working from home. It was difficult for me to get started with work. And it was difficult for me to finish work because it's so easy to just do 10 things at the same time. So that is a learning curve for everyone. And anyone who's working from home and is feeling this to be stressful is normal because it takes time to adapt. But Christian, you asking,
working from home will be the new normal in the future, especially in our industry?
I think it will be. And as you do have this more of a working from home, as the professional work-life barrier lowers and maybe the social life or the personal life barrier gets elevated. So they both sort of blend or come together, and that's why you see stuff like people wearing football shirts. But I just wanted to come back to what you
really think that still having a lot of legacy system in place actually with our carriers. Don't you think that in certain roles it's not possible to work from home if you don't take this next step in technology?
Well, you have to have the technology in place, but I would like to go back to what I said at the beginning. It's about the mindset, and my wife is a good example. My wife, she's head of HR for a tour operator. And I told her, I've been telling her for years, by the way, Daniel, you said the only constant is change. That does not apply to my marriage. So we have that on. So my wife kept telling me, you can't do that. In my position, because I have access to sensitive data, I need files here, I need files there, blah, 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 I can't. So she came up with all these reasons why she couldn't possibly even think of working from home. Then guess what? Came COVID, and because we're next to France, and because we have a lot of people living in France, working in Germany, day one, she said, oh, wow, now I have to issue a note internally that our workers living in France are no longer allowed to come to the office. And 2 days later, it was like, oh, fuck, even I can't come to the office. So I have to work from home. And then 3 months later, I was like, sweetheart, when are you going back to work from the office? I don't know, maybe in like 4 weeks, I should maybe go once and pick up some stuff. So it's the mindset. And of course, the technology is just the enabler. But if you don't have, and I don't think it's a chicken and egg situation, it's the mindset that needs to change, and then the technology will absolutely be available to enable that. You may not be there from day one, but if you've changed the mindset, either forcefully or voluntarily, then you will figure out what technical obstacles you have, and you'll have to fix them.
But that's
absolutely, I totally agree, because I remember we had our company event, the Ops 2020, of course, an on-site and in-person event. And then we wanted to do, of course, this year also an on-site in-person event. And of course, many of my colleagues said, oh, that's difficult and so on, and how shall this be done? And now we are doing it. And I believe you, Marco, and Christian, you are also creating now a virtual event series, and we need technology, we need a positive mindset. And that's important, that people take opportunity and just do it. And I'm really amazed. We have guest speakers. We had yesterday our second aviation women panel where we discussed diversity and equality and all that stuff, and that goes on. So it's now another sample for me that even in a crisis situation, you can go with different means but great ideas even further and connect with people and talk business and be creative and also create momentum. So Christian, what is your idea for a virtual event? What would you do in the first session? Do you have an idea on that already?
I mean, talking about events, I mean, I would like to more talk about actually and take this as a bridge, actually, or such a virtual event, take it as a bridge on how I perceive things. To conclude what all have been said today, I think mindset is really the key. And everything else has been just excuses. Innovation or the technology we are using now to go into the digital area has been there for years. I mean, smartphones, how long have they been have they been around? 10 years now? I mean, I don't know how.
13 years, 2007. The iPhone came out
and
in September.
When I take this into account and looking at the virtual events, I mean, for example, for me, these virtual events are really happening out of a need. You know, the cargo industry is a small community. A lot of people know each other, and this community meets on regular events around the globe. World Cargo Symposium, TIACA Air Cargo Forum, Air Cargo India, Air Cargo Africa. But that's where actually the industry meets and exchange. And suddenly this has stopped. There hasn't been any exchanges, etc. And I must admit, you know, all these webinars, and let's face it, were done actually to replace these events. But I even think the format was wrong. You know, nobody sits 5 hours in front of their computer listening to other people. Either you do something else, you do work, etc. It's not happening. That's why I think actually when we run virtual events, we need to really think about the format. And the format should be quick, insightful, and short, so the people can also digest. I would say 30 minutes, a bunch of people, perhaps only 6 or 8 people, talking about the topic, yeah, bringing in all of their expertise, but that's it. And this can be used and can be distributed. Everybody can watch this video, can pick the time when to watch this video. But I still must admit, this is only to have something in place or to distribute information, or how our marketing guys would say, to have content. But still, I don't really think even these virtual events will replace what we had as an industry. You know, a lot of networking taking place. And I think also, even though you can do an implementation remotely, there will always needs to be a personal aspect. And this is something where I'm not quite sure yet if virtual events will be the key in the future to drive businesses, to exchange, to network, etc. We are people, and we like the personal interaction. I mean, I don't know how you guys felt, but with the lockdown, I really had a problem. You know, I don't have any people, I don't meet them, so I had to do something virtually. But does it really replace the feeling when you stand between people you like, you talk, have a glass of wine in one hand, something nice to eat in the other hand, and walk around under a nice sky? I think this can't be replaced virtually. Of course, we can do more things virtually, and perhaps, I mean, if I look at certain cargo events, perhaps doing this stuff virtually would make more sense. But this networking opportunity and to really have your counterpart in front of you cannot be replaced. I mean, let's face it, we are selling multi-million-dollar systems to carriers. Would you buy such a system for several millions of a guy you don't trust? You need to develop trust. And I think virtually this is very, very difficult. So what you need to do is actually, and that's actually that now I want to conclude what I wanted to say, that is actually the reason why I would do these virtual events, is to generate thought leadership. That before I even meet people, they know, hey, these guys from IBS, they know what they are doing, they understand the industry well, and they will be a good partner to understand my needs, etc. And that's what I want to demonstrate with the virtual happy hour. And hey, let's look at a supply chain area from an IT perspective. I mean, you have a lot of companies who are involved from A to B actually to carry cargo. And therefore also you have a lot of vendors in that area basically offering IT services. And what I want to do is actually bring other vendors who partner with us actually to the table and talk with them about how they perceive their system, their services, how that would impact the business to be for carriers. And again, it's just actually really everybody's talking about, yeah, we will see a leap of technology. The next step is taken, but we really need to educate the industry. What can be done with what industry technology at what point? What is the benefit, etc. That's our initiative, Road to Recovery. We just launched. Actually, it's exactly about this point. Really, to teach the industry, hey, we don't need to talk about innovation. Technology is there. It's no rocket science, but that is what you can. That's what it can do for you. And then we get back to the first point. That will change the mind of the people actually when they really understand how they would benefit from a let's say a technology step into the new digital normal.
Is the change and mindset, is that maybe something of a generation issue as well? And the reason why I'm saying that is I was talking to Christoph, one of our guys from the very first Virtual Happy Hours, about this a couple of days ago, and he said, why are we talking about returning to normal or the new normal? We don't even know what the new normal is going to be. 20 years ago, it was normal for kids to tell their parents that they shouldn't smoke in the car. Or maybe 10 years ago, it was normal that kids would say, please, daddy, can you not smoke in the car? I don't like the smell. Nowadays, it's even forbidden in many countries. When we talk about returning to normal or a V-shape, L-shape, U-shape recovery, we always assume that the industry is going to be going back to what it was, let's say, on the 31st of December 2019. Now, is that maybe because we are looking through the lens of, between the three of us, 150 years? We are 150 years old between the three of us. We have walked this planet for quite some time. And even though I believe we are somewhat mentally agile and have an intellectual curiosity, we still live within a walk and think within our boundaries. So I really wonder whether mindset change comes from our generation or from other generations. And when you think of it through the lens of an airline commercial guy, it's really the generation Y, the generation Z, and the generation Alpha that are the future customers. Are we the right guys still to think on behalf of the future customers and how they want to buy? I think it's time we roped in some smart, switched on, challenging 25-year-olds,
even younger,
university, into the job, that bring their perspective and tell us old farts where they think we have gone wrong and where they think we've done the right thing, and maybe have an exchange of generations. Experience meets curiosity, or experience meets absence of legacy. Experience meets fresh thinking, and let's see what comes out of that.
That's a good idea. I think we will call it Virtual Happy Hour 7.0, Clash of Generations, something like this. Maybe we should do this next Tuesday and invite some freshers from university and academy, because you're right. I think as older we get, as more stubborn we are on certain things.
I am not stubborn. Don't call me stubborn. I am not stubborn.
You are right. You are amazing me, because I think 2 days ago you were telling in the Virtual Happy Hour that I'm calling you every morning at 8 o'clock, give you fresh energy, and you are still in the mood of getting up. And since 2 days you are calling me now every day 7:20 a.m. and you surprise me, and that's something where you're right. You're not stubborn. You are able to adapt. But you're right. I think what I said earlier, to do things as I always did them, the same way, that's not the right mindset. You have to be open to ideas. You have to listen to rebels, and that's why I think it's exactly important to challenge the older people, the experienced people with fresh blood and a different spirit, like we also discussed in the women's panel, to now discuss all these topics, the daily challenges, limitations, and stereotypes women meet in their business, to discuss this with some men, to also have a clash of this topic and create hopefully a new mindset. And I'm looking very much forward to have this discussion with younger people and to challenge my own thinking. That's a good idea.
If we want to think outside of the box, we first need some form of a Shiva god that destroys the box. Otherwise, we are only optimizing the box in which we sit, which is a little bit like the boiling frog syndrome, really.
Yeah, but that's what the Shiva is COVID.
Indeed.
But that's true.
The Shiva, the young generation, the 25-year-olds, our Generation Z that we're calling out to, they can be the Shiva of the box of our thinking, of our mindset. They can start challenging us.
Guys, I think that was a very phenomenal conversation, very early in the morning. I feel already very much energetic for the rest of the day, and it gives me a lot of tailwind to go in the weekend. And I'm very grateful that I have so excellent, phenomenal, fantastic colleagues, and I believe you both have the right mindset. And I'm also so thankful that you were driving the Virtual Happy Hour since end of March. You were bringing in new ideas, new people. I learned so much also from these country presentations. Marco and me, we are going to Latvia next year in June in person. It's phenomenal. No, it's too early for that. It's not June. You do this in June. It's July already. Sorry. And so I thank you. I wish you a nice weekend. Keep going with the good work and keep going to be upbeat, smart, enthusiastic, and positive. And we need more of you all over the world. Thank you very much.
Which maybe we should put that as a challenge. that challenge all over the world, why don't we nominate a region, an IBS region that carries the torch from where we started? An hour of talk about the industry, opportunities, no special topic, no special theme. Share us your thoughts.
That's a great idea. So,
what do you think?
I think that's a great idea. We should start in Asia, actually. And what I would like to see is, we start with Asia, let them talk, then we do it in Europe with our people, and we do it in the US. And then I would like to take people from each region and exchange as well. And then let's have a look at the outcome, because I truly believe that the different regions will have different perceptions on what is happening in the industry, etc. And we know this. I mean, we are in the lucky position that we work globally. And we in IBS are on all continents, so we have this. I see it as a privilege, actually. But I would like to also, from a micro perspective, really understand how people from Asia see this crisis as an opportunity, maybe. I basically see it just as, sorry to say it in very rude, but this crisis is kicking our asses finally. So we get moving, actually, to what we could have done years ago. But I really think I would love to see actually the differences between the regions. And then I would like to also see an exchange between the regions, challenging themselves between each other.
So
it is an awesome idea.
We first of all, we do a clash of generations, as you called it, Daniel, next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday, exactly.
But in parallel, we agree we nominate the Asia region.
Yeah, absolutely. I would strongly support this.
Asia, if you hear us, you're next. We count on you.
And we are going to post this in YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn, and invite the world to just get back to us. If you are upbeat, positive, smart, and enthusiastic, and you want to be part of a vibrant and very passionate community working in technology and aviation, then it's your decision. Carpe diem, and just register. Prepare to be amazed.
Seize the opportunity.
Stay healthy.
Have a good weekend.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.